Hi, everybody. It's Professor Robinson. I just wanted to make a little video for you guys about doing the filed complaint assignment in this module. So don't judge. It's Sunday. It's in between football games. Just you and me chilling. Any rate, so let me share the screen and go to our class page. Let me get this up here. Let me go to the assignment and then share the screen. Okay, so here is the module we're in, which is all about summons and complaints. And one of the assignments you have is a discussion board that asks you to find a civil complaint that was filed in the state of California Superior Court system. And it needs to be an actual case that was actually filed. You are going to attach either a link or a PDF of the complaint to the discussion board, and then state 3 things you learned from reading it. And I think you'll see these could be super basic. It's just a chance, if you're not already working or you haven't done an internship yet, for you to look a little more deeply at a complaint and kind of notice some things that maybe you wouldn't have noticed a year ago now that you're working on it. And then you'll respond to 2 other students. And again, just kind of seeing what people are looking at. So let me clear these. Okay. So I'm going to take you to Google. So ready? Here's my basic Google search. So let's do civil complaint filed in California. It's almost like it knows I've done this before. Superior Court. Okay. So it's giving me some results. I'll be honest, I don't know. My favorite thing to do here is to go to images. So I click on images. And because I know a little bit what I'm looking at, I can already tell, oh my gosh, look at all these complaints. Wow, these look like 10,000 complaints. Key thing for this assignment, I don't want you to use any sort of pay service. I know sometimes you might have accounts with different county systems. Do not pay to download a document. There should be plenty that is free. So I'll give you my other pro tip here. Do you see what we call the little conformed copies, the file stamp? Can you guys see these little guys? I'm kind of circling them because I know this already. I know that these mean these were actually filed, these little kind of date stamps on them. And they even have them for the e-filed, which is probably like right here for the e-filed ones. So anyway, let me clear those little drawings. So I'm just gonna, I don't know either, you guys. I'm gonna click on this one here. Let's see what happens. I'm gonna click on it again. Let me look at this document. Okay, so this isn't a complaint. This is a standing order. Okay, so I'm like, okay, and how will I know? It'll say right here, complaint. Okay, so I'm going to clear that one. And you know what? No biggie. As we're doing all kinds of research and law stuff, you don't ever stress. You just try again, right? So you just try again. Let's look at this one. Okay, what is this one going to say? I'm already liking. It says target complaint PDF. It's loading. It's loading. This must be big. I hope it's not like a consumer class action. Fingers crossed. Oh, I picked a big one, I think. Okay. Well, I definitely have a complaint. So let me show you a few elements that I would look at. And the fun thing is you can use a big one, you can use a small one. It doesn't really matter. Okay. Yeah. So right here, Superior Court for the state of California, County of Alameda. So when we're looking at complaints, they will always say what court they were filed in, what system, and then what specific county. So Superior Court for the County of Orange, for the County of Los Angeles, for the County of Riverside, County of San Bernardino. Really important to take this detail because sometimes you'll pull open a complaint and it'll be a federal court case. So you want to make sure you are in Superior Court, which is our first court, our trial court in our system. I also know it was filed because right here we have our file stamp. So this is from 2009, so it's not super recent. Let me scroll down a little bit. I know it's a complaint because it tells me right here in the title of the document. It's a complaint for preliminary permanent injunction. Also, the footer of the document is right here. Now, what's interesting is all of these elements are dictated by the California Rules of Court. So one of the links in our Canvas page includes a link to the California rules. So these aren't my rules. These aren't, you know, Professor Chen's rules or Professor any of your other professors' rules. They're from the California Rules of Court, the CRC. So a footer is one of the rules, and actually, I shouldn't judge them too harshly yet. So the format for the footer is dictated by the rules of court. I'm just going to go their second page really quick. Oh, they've got a very long caption, but at any rate, so let me go up. So partly we know it's a complaint because it tells us. We know who the plaintiff is. It's the people of the state of California. It looks like this was brought by, Attorney General's office. And then we've got Target Corporation. So great. We will also note on the complaint, some fun little things. You'll always have up here the attorneys for the plaintiff, right? And then they'll even tell you attorneys for plaintiff and then additional counsel on following pages, because this is from the Attorney General's office. So a little bit unusual, not unusual, but it's, you know, from the state of California itself. Okay, I'm just going to scroll down. Some things that you guys might put, like any of these elements I've noted, you could put in your discussion board, right? You have the lined paper. Again, something that is dictated by the California Rules of Court. I can already tell you, that they are missing something right here, according to the California Rules of Court. When you have your footer, you have to have the page number before it. And there's no page number here. So it should be page number, line, and title. And that's one of the fun things is when you start looking at these very specifically, you're going to see that unfortunately, a lot of the real work, okay, they put it down here, that's fine, misses it. So here, sorry, they just didn't title the caption part, just fine. So here's page 1. So what's so great about this is you can say, go to page 1, line 23. And right here, you will see they're naming all the district attorneys for the offices. But at any rate, so this is going to be a super complicated one. I don't know if I'd recommend this. Some interesting things, right? Usually these first few paragraphs, I may go pick a less complicated one, will give you your jurisdictional elements. Like, why is this case appropriate for this court, in front of this court? And so it's being brought by all these different district attorneys. We've got mentions to health and safety, professional code, and then we get information about the defendant. And here is that jurisdictional statement about the defendant. Let me use this. So defendant, right, is a Minnesota corporation. Let's see here, does business in California. And it looks like, ooh, it's going to be about hazardous waste. Anywho, and really important that they want to set that out. Like, what's the jurisdiction? What's the power and authority this court has over this defendant in state? And it says here, target is a person as defined under Health and Safety Code 25118. So anyhow, so that's great. So that's your jurisdictional elements, which can be very simple and straightforward. I might even try to get a more simple one for you guys. Oh, this is so great. One of the other things that comes up that's unique in our system is the DOEs, the suing of the unknown people. So right here, sometimes people want to say does, because of course it's spelled like does. This is the plural of John and Jane Doe. So DOEs 1 through 25. So DOEs allows you to, I always just phrase it as kind of booking an extra ticket. You can buy extra tickets for this lawsuit. You can buy extra seats. And then later, when you find out who is going to sit in those extra seats, you can do an amendment to the complaint. You can amend the complaint to officially add in, like, let's say you wanted to add in, I don't know, Walmart, Sears, are they around? I don't know, other stores, if that's the case. So you always, in California, any lawsuit you do, you'll do the defendants you know, and then it's just sort of your firm's convention. Do you do 1 to 10, 1 to 25, 1 to 99? But whatever you do, make it consistent. And this language here is almost exactly from the code, and they give a little extra even, but this is great. So you can see right there the DOEs language. And I'd frankly be surprised if any of you find a lawsuit that doesn't have it in there. So kind of cool. Jurisdiction and venue, background. And then we just start getting into the story of the complaint, right? What's the issue? General allegations. So this is usually general allegations where the story of the complaint starts. Let's see here. 180 facilities. I don't know. Oh, Okay, they have lots of hazardous chemicals. That's what they're going to tell us. Hazardous chemicals, pool stuff, lamp oil. Okay, sold to the public. So it's going to be all about hazardous chemicals and maybe what they're doing with them. Interesting. Okay, so there's your general allegations. Another little thing that's kind of fun to note, these little hash marks, I guess, is that their dashes, hash marks. So this lets you know that these lines are intentionally left blank, right? They weren't accidentally deleted from the computer or from the printing. These three little hashes let you know line 27 and 28 is intentionally left blank. So it's a bit of a document formatting, word formatting issue. You know, sometimes you don't want to start a paragraph on the last line. I think they call them widow and orphans in document formatting. So to account for that, you can insert some extra spaces or page breaks, section breaks, and how you denote that legally is with these three little hashes. So anytime you have intentionally, you wouldn't do it if it's in the middle, right? Because that's just, I guess, a thing. But at the end where it might be like, was it cut off? That's how you let people know it wasn't cut off. It was on purpose. And then this is great too. One of the things I always like to point out to students is, this isn't an English class. Don't tell your English teacher. You can have a paragraph that is only one sentence long. This would drive an English professor crazy. But in the law, because we're doing technical writing, you can absolutely have a paragraph that is just one sentence. And sometimes that's preferable because what you're really doing is as you are lining up each element of your complaint, each element might be presented as one small paragraph with a little factoid that supports that element. And it's usually best to keep them very simple and straightforward. So you're going to see a lot of these kind of shorter paragraphs, and that's perfectly fine, right? It sort of helps people follow the thing. Oh, look, and here's another one of these. Yay. Intentionally left blank. See, now you know. I'm not even reading this, you guys. I'm just scrolling again, and you can see the nice footers. This is helpful because it lets people know, the document is all together. You're reading it. Let's see here. There might not be anything. You can read this if you want. Whatever complaint you find. La, la, la. Okay, this is great. So all of that kind of above has been general information to help people understand. But now we get to the first cause of action. And in your book and probably the Better Writing Techniques, they recommend that you use headers and that you really do call it out, first cause of action. And then right below it, you give the cause of action. So ready, intentional disposal of hazardous waste at a point not authorized. Boom. Okay. And then they re-allege paragraphs 1 through 25 through 28, really inclusive. And that is also a typical thing here. So instead of repeating, 3 pages, we're just going to say we re-allege paragraphs 1 through 28 inclusive. And then here are additional facts that follow. So that's pretty typical. So sometimes if the causes of action are stacking up, you'll start with like the most basic, and then you'll kind of keep building from there, if you will. And remember, we haven't talked about this. I hope you're reading. Your cause of action is your legal theory upon which relief is based. So the reason why we are entitled to some sort of relief, be it financial, be it damages money or an injunction like that, stop doing what you're doing, is because of this legal theory or a cause of action. And you could have a very simple complaint with one cause of action. You could have a very complex case with 20 causes of action. So at any rate, so you can read through this. Oh, look, and here's a second cause of action. Ooh, let me go back. So that first cause of action, you guys, was pretty short, right? I mean, they incorporated all the previous stuff, but I have that's about 3/4 of a page, right? So the first cause of action here, not super long. Second cause of action, you'll notice again, they've used the nice header. They've also done the re-allege 1 through 28, basically. And then here they go into another specific, negligent disposal. Let me go back up to this one. So we've got negligent disposal and intentional. I don't know if you've had a torts class yet, but intentional torts are different from negligent torts. So torts is like the big umbrella, and underneath torts, the 3 broad categories in my mind come down to intentional torts, like I intentionally punched you in the face, negligent torts, I was swinging my arm around at Target, in celebration of the football game, and I swung my fist into your face, not on purpose, but I wasn't being careful. So negligent torts. And then the third broad category are strict liability, products liability, where, I don't know, I'm shooting fireworks or something's extremely dangerous. So it's interesting that, right, they've first cause of action, it's basically the same kind of activity, this disposal of waste, intentionally, done incorrectly, unsafely. The next one is negligent disposal. So super interesting. Oh my gosh, you guys, I know you don't know me at all. You don't know my personality. I haven't read this. This is hilarious. What did I just say? There's 3 broad categories of torts: intentional, negligent, and strict liability. Oh my gosh, I need some confetti. Okay. And hazardous waste is a abnormally dangerous activity if you get into torts. And so anything you do with abnormally dangerous, highly dangerous things, chemicals, fireworks, wild animals, is always something you're looking at for strict liability. So, oh my gosh. Okay. So look at that. Let's see here. Again, we're just scrolling. Okay, now we get a 4th cause of action: intentional transportation. And I suspect they're going to follow the same, that they're going to do intentional, negligent, and strict liability. Look at that. And this is almost a bit of a rinse and repeat. Strict liability, 6th. 7th, intentional violation. I bet they're going to repeat that. Negligent. Where are my torts people at? Strict liability. Okay. At any rate, violations, more things. Oh, and here again, they've got 4 lines left blank. Knowing violations. Ooh, that's even bigger. Okay, I'm just going to scroll to the end. You can keep looking at all this. This is definitely a very oh, okay. Scrolled too far. Okay, so we go through all the causes of actions, which they're up to 12. And then this is really important. You could have 1 cause of action, you could have 12, you could have 20. The next thing we come to, and this is considered a big break, is the prayer for relief. So after all the causes of actions, then you kind of start over, and you start over with your paragraph numbering, right? Because we have paragraph 83, and then we have paragraph 1. So you start over with your paragraph numbering, and here begins the prayer for relief. And this is kind of standard canned language, right? Wherefore plaintiff prays. It's like, please help me. This is what I want the court to do. And so now they're going to tell us what they want the court to do. And, right, injunction, civil, and some of this is very specific to your causes of action, kind of canned. And then I always like to point out this last one. You never know what paragraph it'll be. This is kind of the catch-all. You'll always see complaints have something like this, like, anything else, that the court wants to give us, right? So anywho, let's see here. Okay, let me clear this. And so the prayer always comes at the very end. Sometimes students make the mistake of wanting to stick the prayer bit behind each cause of action. No, it goes all the way at the bottom. Yeah, and here's the such other relief the court deems proper. And then the attorney does sign it, right? And this is the subscription. And a question that always comes up, the date is the date the attorney signs it. So sometimes the date the attorney signs it is the same day it is filed with the court. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's, you sign it 8 o'clock at night, and then it gets filed with the court 9 o'clock the next morning. Let's look at that. So, okay, remember you guys, June 15. Let's see, did they file it June 15? I wonder. They did. Okay. So, that's probably more typical to have it match, but just know sometimes people ask, what is that date? It's the date the attorney signs it. And then they do have some exhibits attached. And I can tell you just from they've got all the district attorneys signing this. So I would think this took a lot of effort to, coordinate all those signatures. However they did that. I mean, this is 09. It's before all the e-signing. Anywho, and then they've got some exhibits attached, which again, depending on types of complaints, sometimes you have to. So, okay. I hope that's helpful to you. I know that's a bit of a complex one. I'm wondering if we can find, so you're just gonna click around, right? You're gonna click around. I don't want a free demur form. And you may have to go a couple pages deep. Don't stress out if you're like, I don't find one I like right away. Keep jumping around, sometimes if you're into celebrities, if you're into sports, you might find, an awesome complaint. I wonder if anyone's going to do the Amber Heard Johnny Depp case, but if there's something you've been following, or like, I don't know what you might follow, go ahead and click into those. So I hope this little video helps you guys. And that's all I'm asking you to do, is just point out some of the things you've learned as you looked at the complaint, and maybe starting to connect the dots with some of the format guidelines in your textbook that you'll be reading about, and interesting things. Maybe you're like, wow, I never knew what the elements were for, this kind of case. So anyway, I hope you're having a great Sunday, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.